Categorize everything in the entire universe. Please make sure you have your whiteboard and your pen so that you can write those down. Perfect. Good. Everything in the universe. Everything in the universe can be categorized as either this or this, and I want you to write those two things down, please, on your whiteboard. Everything in the entire universe. Good. Perfect. Good. Everything in the entire universe can be categorized into one of two things. Now let's say I'm talking about stuff like this box, or this desk, or this ground that I'm standing on, the grass outside, or even though we can't see it, the air that we're breathing, or even my body, my skin, and my hair, and my organs on the inside, and the bones, all that type of stuff. Please circle the one that I'm talking about if I'm talking about all of those types of things. Please circle the one that I'm talking about if I'm talking about all of those types of. Now we're talking about all this material of the universe, or the stuff of the universe. Please tell me, any of these things, the stuff of the universe, what is it composed of? What is it made up of? No matter what what thing I'm talking about, whatever the stuff is, what is it composed of? Okay. Let's say that I took a piece of that stuff that we're talking about, and this piece happens to have only one type of atom in it. Because everything in the universe can either be energy or matter. And yesterday we focused on listing out all of the different types of energies. And we found out, wow, that looked like our syllabus from physics. Everything that was in there, sound and heat and light and work and kinetic and potential energy. All of those focus on in physics. And if everything in the universe is either energy or matter, and in physics we focused on energy, now in this class, chemistry, what we're going to be focusing on is matter. All the way we defined it yesterday, all the material of the universe, all this stuff around us. Now here is one of that stuff around us, the material of the universe. There's no way for you to tell. There's no way for me to tell, except I got it out of a bottle, that this only has one type of atom in it. There's only one type of atom in this material or stuff or matter. Please tell me what we would call this if there is only one type of atom in it. Element. We call a substance that has only one type of atom is simply an element. This is why the long name for this table that has all the elements is the periodic table of the elements. Periodic table of the elements. Now, what we did is we looked at an analogy yesterday, where it is if I took this substance and broke it apart into its individual atoms, what I would find is all of the atoms are exactly the same. Exactly. And what we said is, it's very similar as if I had a big structure of Legos and I pull it apart and I look at each individual Lego and I find out, wow, that one looks a certain way, so I'll put it here. And then, wow, that one looks exactly the same, so I'll put it there. And when I'm done, I find out that all the atoms look exactly the same. And so we call that an element. Now, as you can imagine, not everything exists as an element. In fact, most things in our universe do not exist as simple elements. They exist stuck together, or connected with, or bonded, as we're going to use in chemistry. So, one of the things that we talked about yesterday was a very common substance that we call water. And water is two elements. It's the element of hydrogen and it's the element of oxygen, and they're connected or stuck together or bonded in a certain way. Because these are not just one type of atom, but two different types of atoms stuck together, we had a different name for these guys, and we called these guys compounds. When you're dealing with only one type of atom, we call it an element. When we're dealing with two or more types of atoms, we call it a compound. Now, we kind of joked around and said, oh, we'll pronounce it compound, because that reminds us of two or more, that prefix co, like co-captain co-worker, co-pilot, 2 or more. Then, yesterday, what we did is we wanted to start finding out what are some common elements, and for instance, what elements are we made out of? And so what we did is we started with the side of a cereal box. And we said, let's identify out of these things that are listed here, things that we are eating, which ones are listed as elements. Meaning, which ones actually make us up. Which ones are we composed out of? And so we came up with like 7 or 9 of them. We got on here calcium, and we had iron, and we had sodium, and several elements, and we identified them on the periodic table. Then what we did is we listed all of the elements on the board. And the first one, the biggest or the most type of atom that we're made out of happened to be oxygen. So the way we're going to look at this is if you were able to take somebody and shake them super hard until they fell apart into their individual atoms. And we had a big pile of atoms. We can't really do this, we're pretending. And you grab one atom and you go, wow, that atom looks like this, so I'm going to set it over here. Wow, this atom looks different, so I'm going to set it over here. Whoa, this atom looks the same as that one, so I'll set it over here. And we start putting together piles of millions and billions of atoms. We end up with, does anybody remember how many piles we end up with?
22.
22 piles. That means 22 elements out of how many? 117 that make us up. Millions and billions of atoms, but only 22 different types. So now, if we take the entire universe and shake it apart into its individual atoms, we would have some piles of atoms very, very large. Some piles of atoms very, very small. Some piles medium size. But what we end up with is how many different piles? 117. 117 different types of atoms that we call elements. Most of the universe does not exist as an element. It exists as a compound. The atoms or elements bonded together or stuck together or connected together. Okay? All right. Now, what I'd like you to do, and now this chart, what I'm going to be doing on this chart is looking at one individual atom, the structure of that one individual atom. So make sure you get that in your mind. Everything in the universe is either matter or energy. We're dealing with matter. This matter is made up of atoms. I'm breaking this substance into its individual atoms. Now this happens to be an element. So all of the atoms are exactly the same, but it doesn't matter what atom I look at. The basic structure is going to be the same. So now I'm analyzing one individual atom and looking at the structure of that.